All right, so today we're diving into some pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah,
We're going to be exploring the experiences of astronaut Cady Coleman.
really interesting perspective.
Yeah, using her own reflections on her career and what it means to be an astronaut, right?
Yeah.
And how all of those experiences that she had can offer some insights for us,
Hmm.
stuck here on Earth.
Stuck here on Earth, yeah.
So it should be a really interesting way to kind of look at our own skills and potential and really kind of broaden that perspective.
Yeah, and what really struck me reading Cady Coleman's work is that even after her space flights,
Yeah.
like that identity of being an astronaut doesn't go away.
Right.
She views the world, it's like a lens.
Right.
She still sees everything through that lens.
Like a framework.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? It's a fundamental dedication to exploration and
Hmm.
not just space travel, but everything.
Right. Right.
Like every aspect of life.
It's like ingrained in her.
It is.
Mm.
And so I think what we need to remember is that being an astronaut is not just piloting spacecraft.
Right.
There's
Exactly.
a whole range of roles.
It's like you said, it's a lens.
Yeah, scientists, communicators, advocates, leaders.
Ah.
It's multifaceted.
Okay, so I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, all right, this is really cool,
Yeah.
but how does it apply to me? Like, I'm not going to space.
Right. Yeah.
So how do these insights from astronauts apply to our everyday lives?
Yeah, I mean, whether you're thinking about changing careers or figuring out how to apply the skills you have in a new area,
Mm-hmm.
or just simply trying to understand what you're even capable of,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
this deep dive, that's who it's for.
It is.
It's for anyone who wants to make connections, have those aha moments.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So how about we start with like, what's a broader definition of an astronaut?
Okay, yeah. How does Cady see it?
Well, Cady kind of laughs and says it's not just someone who sails in space,
Right.
which is funny because that's kind of the,
Yeah, that's the image.
the classic image.
Yeah.
But really, she sees them as explorers,
Her.
people who are pushing the limits of what we understand, what we experience.
Yeah.
But then there's more, right?
Yep.
They're also ambassadors
Right.
representing humanity.
On a cosmic stage. Wow.
Yeah, and I think the most relevant thing for us today is this idea of astronauts as bridges.
Bridges. Okay.
Yeah, they bridge the gap between scientific discovery and our everyday lives,
Oh, interesting.
and even between space and Earth.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially when you consider Cady herself held a ton of different positions, right?
So I saw,
Under that title, astronaut, and many of them weren't even about leaving the planet.
yeah, which really broadens the understanding, doesn't it?
It does.
And what's interesting is she identifies some core qualities
Okay.
that underpin all these different roles.
Mhm.
Now, these aren't exclusive to astronauts, but they're definitely forged by the experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're talking courage, being willing to face the unknown, curiosity, that constant drive to learn, persistence, never giving up,
Right, right, right.
and patience,
Oh, yeah, gotta have patience.
especially for long missions and complex problems.
Absolutely.
And for our listeners, it's really about recognizing that you probably use these same qualities
That's true.
in your own life.
Yeah, maybe without even realizing it.
Exactly. And it may not be space exploration,
Right.
but those qualities are there.
And that kind of brings us to that concept of transferable skills, right?
It does.
Cady poses the question, and it's a good one. What good is an astronaut on Earth?
We're right here.
Because they go through all this very specialized training.
Sans training.
So what can they do outside of that very specific context?
Well, and that's exactly what makes us think about how skills from one area can be useful in completely different situations.
Yeah,
And Cady's career after the ISS is a great example.
yeah.
She went to NASA headquarters,
Right.
focusing on innovation,
Mm-hmm.
education, sustainability.
Very different. Yeah.
It seems totally different from spacecraft systems, right?
Right.
But her astronaut training, well, it gave her this incredible skill set that was applicable to all these new areas.
So what were some of those earthbound skills that she kind of discovered she had?
Well, it's really cool how different parts of being an astronaut contributed to this.
Yeah.
Like teamwork, for example.
Okay.
During training and missions, they rely on each other so heavily.
Yeah, of course.
Even a small miscommunication could be life-threatening.
Yeah, very high stakes.
Exactly. And that made her amazing at bringing people together.
Yeah, makes sense.
And not just within NASA.
Oh, really?
She bridged gaps between NASA and universities, industries, even entertainment.
Wow, interesting.
And then there's the fact that she had to be comfortable having tough conversations in space.
Right, yeah.
That became super valuable when dealing with collaborations and leading different groups towards a shared goal.
That's a really interesting point.
And one more thing she talks about, which I think is really important, is storytelling. She actually says it's probably her most powerful tool for change.
Storytelling.
Now, some might see it as a soft skill,
Yeah.
but she argues it's really powerful.
Why do you think that is?
Well, think about how we understand things.
Okay.
Humans are wired for stories.
Right.
It's how we make sense of the world.
Yeah.
So if you want to communicate something important to connect with people and change their minds, a story is often the best way to do it.
I mean, think about a time a story really stuck with you.
Yeah.
You probably remember it clearly. Maybe it even changed your perspective.
Exactly. And for Cady, this wasn't a sudden shift. She was often picked for PR roles throughout her time at NASA.
That's interesting.
And she mentions that there was this underlying culture at NASA that sometimes discouraged astronauts from sharing too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or from even admitting they enjoyed public engagement.
That's surprising.
But Cady, she understood how important it was to share space with everyone.
Yeah.
And she can make all that complex, intimidating work they do relatable, human.
How?
She would use funny anecdotes, talk about everyday things,
Oh, cool.
and that helped move past the hero astronaut image
Right. Yeah.
and inspired people to see their own potential.
So it's about making those achievements feel accessible,
Absolutely.
showing that these amazing people are still, just people.
Yeah, they have the same experiences and emotions as everyone else.
Right. And it wasn't just about her stories.
No, she knew it was important to create space for other people's stories too.
To be heard.
Yes, a two-pronged approach.
I like that.
Sharing her own story to connect and inspire, but also making sure others could share their unique perspectives.
And a great example of that is her connection with the movie Gravity.
Oh yes, fantastic example.
The story about her brother connecting her with Sandra Bullock while she was up on the ISS.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
It is.
And what's so cool is how this casual connection turned into a real exchange of knowledge.
Yeah.
Cady and the crew gave Bullock insights into moving and weightlessness, the emotional side of being so far from home.
Really using their experiences in a totally unexpected way.
Exactly. And then when Cady got back to Earth,
Yeah.
NASA asked her to help figure out how to use the film to showcase the real work happening on the ISS.
Oh, wow.
And she recognized the creative liberties, the cool spacesuits.
Right, Hollywood.
But she saw the power of that film, especially in showing Earth from space, and a woman experiencing that.
Yeah, and that brings us back to representation, right?
Absolutely.
Seeing a woman in that spacesuit
With the impact.
really broadens our idea of who can achieve these things.
And it ties in perfectly with the Artemis mission.
Sending the first woman and person of color to the moon.
Huge step.
Monumental, yeah. And Cady talks about how young girls today will see a woman taking those first steps.
Powerful.
It makes you think about who gets to see themselves in those moments.
It does, and she makes this observation. Her male colleagues, many of them remember watching Armstrong's first steps.
Oh, yeah.
Their parents woke them up to see it.
Right.
And she asks, how many girls missed that moment?
Because of societal assumptions.
Exactly. Like who that event was for.
It's a powerful question.
Imagine if a woman had been the one taking those steps in '69.
Wow.
How would that have changed the stories we tell ourselves?
As a society.
Yes, the assumptions we make about women.
It could have been huge.
A small change at the start can lead to a completely different outcome.
That's a great way to put it.
And it applies to culture, too.
Yeah.
The stories and images we see become the blueprints for what we think we can do.
They give us permission to dream.
Exactly. And for Cady, it was seeing Sally ride that opened up possibilities she hadn't considered.
And that inspired her to become a storyteller herself.
And to create space for other voices.
The ones that are often marginalized?
Yes, and she didn't just talk about it, she took action.
Okay, how so?
She used her position at NASA to push for more representation in their public outreach.
Cool.
Like the Live from the Space Station program. Initially, it was all white men.
Oh, wow.
And she saw the message.
Yeah, subtle but powerful.
Exactly. So she advocated for women in mission control, for showcasing diverse astronauts.
So she was actively trying to change things.
She was, and it didn't stop when she retired.
Right.
She sees her experiences as a privilege, but also a responsibility.
To bring others along.
To expand possibilities.
I love that.
For her, sharing stories is giving back, making those experiences accessible.
And she's really intentional about it.
Oh, yeah. She makes sure she's visible at MIT astronaut alumni reunions.
Okay.
Part of the picture. She insisted on having local Girl Scouts in CNN's coverage of the solar eclipse.
That's great.
It's about planting seeds, showing young people, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, that they can be part of this.
Yeah, it's about showing them what's possible.
And her commitment to inclusion goes beyond gender and race.
Right, to other forms of diversity.
And her work with the It Gets Better project is a great example.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting one.
So while she's not LGBTQ plus wing, she understood being different, and she wanted to support them.
Yeah.
And what surprised her was the impact NASA's participation had within NASA itself.
Wow.
It showed that even in a seemingly progressive place, people were struggling with belonging.
That's eye-opening.
It is. It reminds us that we all have blind spots.
Yeah.
And we need to listen to and learn from experiences that are different from our own.
To build truly inclusive environments.
And her role with Astro Access takes us even further.
Focusing on disability inclusion in space.
And her experiences with Dana Bowles and Cece Mazik are incredible.
Yeah, they really challenged her assumptions.
Dana, born without arms or legs, navigating weightlessness with such precision.
Incredible.
And Cece, who uses a wheelchair, feeling this freedom of movement in zero gravity.
Powerful stories.
It shows that we need to design for inclusion from the start.
Not as an afterthought.
Right, and it benefits everyone.
Universal design.
Like having multiple formats for emergency notifications, tactile labels.
It's so simple, but so important.
And it all comes down to having those tough conversations, recognizing our biases.
Yeah.
We all see the world through our own lens.
Right.
And to be inclusive, we need to confront those limitations and learn from other perspectives.
And going to space, well, it gave Cady this huge shift in perspective.
It did, seeing Earth from above.
As a whole.
Yeah, it changed her understanding of our place here.
And orbiting every 90 minutes, you really get a feel for the interconnectedness of everything.
And how meaningless borders are.
Yeah, it really hits home that we're one family sharing this planet.
Exactly, and she talks about this moment with a cab driver from Egypt after her mission. This instant connection, like I was just there.
Wow.
It shows how those perceived distances just disappear.
We're all connected.
We are, and the biggest realization for her was that we're always in space.
Yeah.
Living on the ISS is just being a bit further away from the surface.
That's true.
It changes how we see ourselves in the cosmos.
So Earth is like a spaceship.
And we're the crew.
That's a powerful analogy.
It highlights our shared responsibility.
And it seems like Cady's new mission here is to empower the next generation.
To be the best crew for our planet.
Like when she spoke to those young women in engineering.
Yeah, sharing what she's learned.
Yeah.
How to communicate, connect, persevere.
So valuable.
It's a call to action for all of us.
Yeah.
To recognize that every single voice matters.
For our collective mission here on Earth.
Exactly. And while she hopes for future space exploration, her focus now is on creating a more inclusive and equitable space here.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I'd say the key message is that being an astronaut develops incredible skills that can be used anywhere.
Not just technical skills.
Right. And it gives you a powerful perspective on our interconnectedness and the importance of inclusive storytelling.
And for you, our listener, we hope this has inspired you to think about your own astronaut qualities.
Your unique skills and perspectives.
Yeah, and how you can apply them in different ways.
And think about the stories you consume and share.
And the impact of seeing yourself and others represented.
It leads us to one final thought.
Okay.
If seeing Earth from space shows us so clearly how connected we are, how can we bring that sense of unity and responsibility into our daily lives?
Even though we're not all astronauts.
What small step can you take today to broaden your perspective?
Or create more space for different voices.
It's something